Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Coming up in our influencer segment brought to us by Hi There, we are featuring Susana Damouni, a beauty lifestyle influencer with a very large social media platform and fan base. She's known as the Barbie doll of Instagram with over 8 million followers. And today she's coming on with Tyler Gallant, actor and former pro ice hockey player and influencer of sorts. Today, we are chatting about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, the implications for the Me Too movement, and their take on if the jury made the right decision. The trial is over. Now what? Well, it's easy to see why people became fascinated. Celebrity and bad behavior provided a tantalizing backdrop in the ultimate battle of the sexes. It's the kind of fascination we haven't seen since the O.J. Simpson murder trial, which at the time had pundits proclaiming there would never be anything else like it again. About 150 million Americans sat glued to their TVs watching the O.J. murder trial. Well, that was back in 1995. In 2022, with the help of technology constantly introducing streaming networks and smartphones to bring us news as it happens, more than 330 million people around the world watch Depp versus Heard on Dan Abrams' Law and Crime Network. Now, for a very long time, far too long, in fact, the media has felt secure in knowing defamation is pretty hard to prove. It's two-pronged. Financial loss needs to be proven, as well as malicious intent. Depp versus Heard just illustrated it can be done in an outsized fashion, nonetheless. And here to chat some more are influencers Susana Damouni and actor Tyler Gallant. Welcome to the show, my friends.
Thank you for having us.
Susana, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
All right, Susana, let's start with you. Do you agree with the jury's decision and why?
No, I personally don't agree with the jury's decision because I think that Johnny should have not been found liable for one of the charges that he was liable for, from the quote of the Waldman quote. And I personally think that he was innocent on all charges.
So you do agree with the verdict?
I do agree with the jury, but I also wanted to say that I think that the jury also made the right decision because from what I watched and from discussions that I've had with others, we've all felt that just her performance is exactly what she did. She just kept changing her story. She just looked she looked like she was acting like she was doing her best performance ever just to prove her innocence. And that kind of made me feel that I just don't believe her. She just was not believable.
Yeah, you didn't buy into the crocodile tears is what you're saying. Okay. Tyler, what's your perspective on this?
I mean, I think that, Johnny's team, they really did a good job on hammering home that idea that it was a performance and that she was changing her testimony and this and that. And I think their legal strategy on that sense, I think did probably in the end make a difference for not only the jury, but a lot of viewers. And I think, I think there was, some level of abuse on both sides at some point. But I think Johnny ended up, I think the right decision was made. But it was definitely an interesting trial, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, one of the jurors said that they didn't buy what he says were Amber's emotional swings from crying to ice cold. This particular male juror seemed to be swayed in no small part by Amber's demeanor on the stand, saying that jurors were uncomfortable, but what he seemed to say were these dramatic outbursts they just didn't buy, that the crying, the facial expressions, the staring at the jury, all of them were very uncomfortable. So I definitely understand what you're talking about in that perspective. All right, well, let's move on to another question I have for you guys here. Susana, do you feel currently, do you think Hollywood will embrace them and welcome both of them back or one of them? And do you think that the companies that once dropped Johnny Depp are going to reinstate him?
I don't think that the companies that once dropped Johnny Depp will reinstate him. I do think that other companies will hire Johnny Depp back because I feel he's an excellent actor, and they saw the trial and I think they realized that he was defamed. As for Amber Heard, I don't think so. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't think so because I think that they may think that she's going to hang them out to dry because she's capable of doing certain things and maybe they won't trust her.
Right. Well, the jury felt Amber and Johnny were mutually abusive. They did say that. But what Johnny had going for him is he seemed a little bit more relaxed with his facial expressions. He seemed to be a little bit more real in terms of how he was responding to questions. His emotional state was very stable throughout. But he also possessed distinct advantages because, in my opinion, separate of her conduct on the stand, that was very harshly criticized, in no small part, I believe, because Johnny happens to be a bigger star who's dwelled for much longer in the glow of public approbation. He brought with him into the courtroom the very well-known characters he has played. He's Edward Scissorhands, he's Jack Sparrow, he's Hunter S. Thompson, he's Gilbert Grape. And although we've seen him, mischievous and mercurial on screen, he's never really been the bad guy, the truly menacing guy on screen. He's never menacing. He's never threatening. He's someone we've all watched grow up from when he was a juvenile heartthrob on 21 Jump Street to crusty old salt in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. So, people knew him a lot more than they knew her. So I think that played a lot into it. Tyler, do you feel that historically Hollywood has been more harsh on women speaking up against sexual abuse and violence?
Well, I mean, I think, up until, up until everything that happened with Weinstein, I think abuse wasn't really talked about. And I feel that with the rise of the Me Too movement under Weinstein, I feel like people finally felt like they had a voice to come forward and discuss, allegations or things that happened against them. But yeah, prior to then, I don't really remember hearing much.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, if you really look at it from the bird's eye view, this is my perspective, and I respect all of yours perspectives, but this trial turned into a public orgy of misogyny. I'm sorry, but it did. Sure, most of the vitriol was directed at Amber, but it's hard to really shake the feeling that it was really directed at all women in particular, especially those of us who spoke out against gender abuse and sexual violence during the height of the Me Too movement. So it was quite offensive to a certain demographic. And we're in a moment of this anti-feminist backlash. I do believe that. And the modest gains that were made are now being retracted with this display of victim blaming at a massive scale. So Amber is still in an abusive relationship, if you ask me. But now it's not just with Johnny Depp, it's with the entire country. And it's unfortunate for her, but he really drove it home when he said, I am going to publicly make her pay for this. And these were quotes that came directly out of his own text messages. In 2016, he texted his friend Christian Carino, vowing revenge against her. She's begging for global humiliation is what he said, and she's going to get it. And he did just that. So I think there's both sides to every story. But Susana, I want to hear a little bit more from you. At what moment did you stop believing her when she took the stand?
For one, like when you said how she kept looking at the jury, she just kept going. And I just thought it was just so phony. And I also think that Amber brought this upon herself, trying to have this face and this role for the Me Too movement. And I think that that's why a lot of, in my opinion, real physically abused women were upset about this. And a lot of really physically abused women, in my opinion, were upset with her because they were saying, I was in a domestic violent relationship and this is not how you act. And this is not, you can't. And she would, like I said, on the trial, she would smile and then she would cry. And the cry was so fake. And I just stopped believing her. And I also feel like she was saying stuff like how she lost so much in it. And she was so dramatic about everything. And she also never took any accountability. of anything that she did. And that kind of makes her look really not believable.
Yeah,
because
no, I get it.
You can't not take any accountability. Like, there's no way. And I'm not saying that Johnny Depp was not verbally abusive to her and that he had kind of a dark sense of humor. But I do think that I believe that she was verbally abusive and physically abusive. And he lost roles like the Pirates of the Caribbean and the Fantastic Beasts, and she didn't lose any money out of this. So that's
Well, she's paying for it now.
all
right.
Career.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we have about a minute and a half left, but no victim is perfect. No victim should have to be. After all, if a man can't be considered abusive towards an imperfect woman, then just how perfect does a woman need to be before it becomes wrong to beat her? And I do believe that he beat her, so I have a different perspective on that. Okay, Tyler, real quick question. What are your thoughts on cancel culture overall in Hollywood? You're an actor. You see this happen day after day, time after time. Pipe in here.
I just think that cancel culture it's kind of a tricky thing in some circumstances because as we're taught through the actual justice system, we're taught to believe in innocent until proven guilty, and that's through looking at evidence and facing an actual trial, where cancel culture has become something through the actual society.
Yeah.
And there is no evidence finding. There is no jury.
You're right. Cancel culture is often less about actions than words, and cancellation is now synonymous with any criticism that invokes racial insensitivity, sexual misbehavior, or controversial opinions, right? So I definitely see your point of view. We are out of time. I want to thank both of you for coming on. It was very insightful to hear your POV on this. Susana, always a pleasure to have your Beauty Grace Hour show.
Thank you. It's always an honor to be on your show.
And Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. I know that you are somebody that trends really well. You do very, very good for yourself. And you're an influencer of sorts in your own right. So I'm definitely going to send people to your website and to follow you on the ground. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, definitely check out actor Tyler Gallant on the gram at actor_Tyler_G, and check out Susana at Susana.dxoxo. That was our influencer segment. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Hi There, a creative community exploring the culture, craft, and science of cannabis. Hi There believes that we have a collective responsibility towards eradicating the stigma, misinformation, and inequities surrounding this plant so we can unlock its true potential for all. To become involved and find out what all the excitement is about, download the Hi There app from the App Store and Google Play. Hi There, HIGHTHERE.
Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcoming back to our influencer segment is Susana Damouni and actor Tyler Gallant. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you for having us back.
Yep. Thank you for having us.
All right, cool. Let's jump right into this. Tyler, do you feel that companies are now going to reinstate Johnny Depp after they had originally dropped him?
I think it's going to be a slow process if it does happen. I think that, obviously, I saw some crazy metric on TikTok where he had over, I think it was 2 billion, trending hits on TikTok.
Wow.
So I think in that sense, I think some businesses are going to say, wow, okay, this guy is about as big as you get right now, trending as a topic. They might dabble a little bit in it. But I think overall, I think it's going to be a little bit before he, if he comes back to the height that we once knew him at. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. Fair point. Good point of view there. All right, Susana, after he won the case, he shared, Johnny Depp being he, shared a very heartfelt message, and he felt like he had gotten his life back. And he said that the goal of bringing this case was to reveal the truth regardless of the outcome. What do you say to this?
I have to agree with him because I believe it was 6 years of his life that he was defamed and raped of his career and destroyed him. And I feel like, that's all he wanted. He didn't want any money out of this. He just wanted to clear his name. And I don't blame him. If somebody did that to me, I would be fighting so hard because in the end of the day, all you have is your reputation. So for me, like my reputation means a lot to me. So I could completely see where he was coming from. It wasn't just the jobs he lost. It was, he was defamed and he wanted the truth to come out.
All right. Great. Fair enough. You said it. All right, Tyler. Binder notes. We've been hearing these binder notes that are resurfacing or surfacing now. And Amber says that she has a binder chock full of notes from therapy sessions with a doctor dating back to 2011, who she was reporting the alleged abuse to. And she says it's a real-time account of what was going on between her and Johnny. And remember, this is 2011, right? So it's very far removed from the case. Now, the documents were not included in Amber's legal showdown with Johnny because the judge reportedly ruled the therapist's notes were hearsay and inadmissible. Do you feel that if the notes had been incorporated and her team had done a better job at managing, her emotional outbursts on the stand, that the outcome may have been different?
I don't necessarily know, because I think in looking at some of the footage, I was going back and watching some of the footage from the trial. Dr. Curry, who was a pretty esteemed professional in her field, had said that after showing some of the pictures from one of the, I don't know if it was part of the binder, but some of the material that Dr. Hughes, was that her name? What she had provided was not filled out, Dr. Curry said, as to how in the industry you would have actually done it as a doctor. And she said it wasn't filled out properly. And so she said that there were some discrepancies in how it was actually performed and that it wasn't up to the standard.
Right. That's why he dismissed it. But had those notes not been dismissed, because the judge could have very easily said, sure, let's admit them into evidence. But I don't think she was maybe board certified or something. She was a therapist, so to speak, with that Amber confided in her. But my question is, playing devil's advocate, if you're confiding in any therapist in 2012, you're not premeditating that you're going to be in a court in 2022. So why not at least allow the jury to see what was actually transpiring that she was reporting to this woman in a short time after she and Johnny were married. So, I don't know. This is all, it's above me, I'm just trying to keep up.
I think touching on that, I think why I said I wasn't sure is what was kind of transpiring in the courtroom, as far as what it seemed some of the jurors were saying, was that they weren't trusting what Amber was saying. So I think that also plays into it, in that I don't know if they would have believed all of the things that she would have documented in that binder.
Right. Because of her credibility up until that point in time when she took the stand. I see your point. Good point.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Susana, I have an interesting question here for you. You want to pipe into that one? Go ahead.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think that Dr. Hughes also said something like, if you go to the doctor and she just kind of looks at you and says, oh, I think you have cancer, God forbid. How do you know that? She didn't do a thorough, what he said. It wasn't, she just checked off one box. She didn't actually do it properly, the way she was supposed to, like Dr. Curry did. You know what I mean? That's what the big...
Well, but following protocol back then, when this wasn't a court case, is a very, being a Monday morning quarterback is easy now that we're seeing it. But that therapist had no idea that she had to submit this in the capacity that she did, nor do I think she had some of the credentials that she should have, or maybe she did, but the judge either way dismissed it. But there's something more interesting. I want you to comment on this, because I know that you've been part of domestic abuse in your lifetime, and you've come out winning, and you've become stronger as a result of it. But the most important thing that I want to talk about is, so Johnny Depp's fans seem not so much to deny that Johnny Depp alleged violence against Amber Heard, but they're actually approving of it, because there's one quote: "He could have killed you," said one viral TikTok guy supporting Johnny Depp. The text was superimposed over photos of Amber Heard's bruised face, which I get some people didn't believe. And they said he had every right to kill you if he chose to. Now, that post has more than 220,000 likes. Is this not telling enough of what this trial bred? How do you feel as somebody who clearly still wants to stand up for women who are in domestic abuse relationships?
I don't think anybody has the right to take anybody else's life away, so I don't agree with that. But I mean, I feel I have been in an abusive relationship before, and I do stand up for abused women. I just think that it kind of makes you stronger. I don't agree with that statement, but at the same time, it's hard for me to say because I don't feel like she was physically abused. I just feel like she was verbally abused. So, and I know we saw the evidence where she had the bruise on her face or whatever, and she called TMZ to come and film her, like, see her getting out of the courtroom. I do think it was all planned.
Premeditated. It could have been, but what the trial is breeding online, the haters that are coming out against her for whatever reason they have, right? Because of the way they viewed her in this trial. But for his fans to go out there and say he could have killed you and he had every right to, that for me is fans that are going to defend him till the end, regardless if he is right or wrong. So it strikes me odd that they would not have sequestered the jury, that at least 50% of them had access to social media. Social media is an animal, and it's a big engine that you cannot compete with. Once things go viral, they go viral. Once ideas are implanted into people's brains, people roll with it. Everything that glitters is gold. Perception is reality. And so I'm fearing that there was a lot of sway based on who he was. People lost track of what they were really ruling for, and the message, the ripple effect that it is sending to the hundreds of thousands of women out there is very negative as a result of this insane fiasco that should have never been a public display. It should have been behind closed doors, not televised.
I don't think, nobody has the right to take, I don't agree with their statement. I don't think that anybody should even think that that's okay, that she should have been killed or anything like that. But I also think that maybe they're just saying it out of anger because they were so upset. And I'm not saying that it makes it okay, because it doesn't. They were just so upset with her behavior, what she did to him for the past 6 years, that maybe they were just saying it out of spite, not,
Maybe. Good point. All right, listen, we're out of time. Thank you both for another amazing segment. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. Pleasure having you. Susana, always a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much, my darling.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Guys, you definitely have to check out Susana Damouni on the gram at Susana.dxoxo, and check out Tyler Gallant at actor_Tyler_G. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.